The Plum posting threatening to blow up the New South Wales government, with pressure mounting on the Premier to take action. Today, the man at the centre of the scandal finally gave his side of the story.
If I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have walked into what was a show.
Embattled former Deputy Premier John Barilaro taking the stand for the first time in a public accountability committee.
I've endured what can only be described as a personal hell.
Accused of nabbing a $500,000 a year trade job in the US, a gig he helped create as Trade Minister.
I will absolutely refute that disgusting slur and accusation. You're making me out to be corrupt.
With his former Chief of Staff alleging Barilaro said,
"This is it. This is the job for when I get the out of this place."
While former senior bureaucrat Jenny West was picked for the New York-based role in 2021...
I was so excited about the appointment. I began taking steps to relocate.
The state government halted the hiring process for a ministerial intervention.
There was a will within government to elevate the status of these appointments, and that's why I got the agency to create a cabinet submission.
After a speedy cabinet sign-off, Jenny West was no longer best.
Ms Brown said that the position, and this is a quote, will be a present for someone.
I am leaving politics, and I'll look to a new career.
Barilaro was appointed to the US trade role in mid-June this year.
He was by far the most outstanding candidate.
Maybe a bit of a midlife crisis.
And I'm sure he will do a brilliant job.
Stepping down 2 weeks later under fierce scrutiny, Barilaro took a break but couldn't escape the media storm.
Mr. Barilaro
He's in a fight with a news camera operator.
Tensions rocketed.
New Trade Minister Stuart Ayres then fell on his sword, his conduct in question over what information he'd passed Barilaro.
Minister Stuart Ayres informed me that he would resign.
Although even the Premier himself reportedly thought it was a good idea at the time.
He had nothing more to say then. Go for it.
Perrottet is now promising an independent review all of his own.
An independent review. It's not a political review. It's an independent review.
But as the Jobs for the Boys scandal keeps growing, just how many more hits can the Premier and his government take?
The tip of the iceberg.
And the Saturday paper's chief political correspondent Karen Middleton joins us now. Karen, is this more of a problem for Barilaro or for Perrottet?
Well, it's a good question. It's not ideal for either of them, and there could be other people drawn into this as well. We've already seen Stuart Ayres have to step down from his ministry over his arrangements in relation to this whole situation. I think there's a couple of issues here. There's the big question, which is, did anyone misuse their public office? And that's a very serious question. And then there's the question of politics. How politically damaging is it for Premier Perrottet and for ministers around him? And that's still an open question too.
What about the political fallout, with the election coming in March? What do you think, how does it play out there, if at all?
Well, it's not ideal, is it, to be going to an election in, 7 months or something and have this huge problem blow up. It's been going for something like 7 weeks now and just is getting worse, not better in political terms. We've now seen a minister have to step down. We've seen John Barilaro have to answer questions today. And it's a question of whether he and his team can recover well enough to go into that March election in a better position.
Karen, you mentioned obviously the damage done to Dominic Perrottet. He's lost 2 ministers, and then today we hear that David Elliott, a current minister, was lined up a job for the boys in London as a trade commissioner. What did Dominic Perrottet say about that today?
Well, Dominic Perrottet is not saying that he was involved in any way in lining up some kind of a job after politics for David Elliott. He's not denying that he might have had a conversation about creating a special parliamentary secretary job while he's still in Parliament. And he took great pains on 2GB this morning to differentiate between those things. He says it is his prerogative as Premier to make arrangements and create special parliamentary secretary jobs. Whenever he reshuffles his ministry, he moves people and sometimes creates new jobs. So he's not denying there might have been a conversation about doing something like that with David Elliott staying in Parliament.
Yeah, it's always about the way they explain it. David Elliott was even said to perhaps have asked to become the next governor of New South Wales.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. That was put to the Premier on radio this morning too, and he again said, lots of people talk about what they'd like to do after politics, but it's not my job to,
I want to be governor.
Nice job if you can get it, I guess.
Since we're just asking for jobs, anything you want, Karen?
I can send you a list if you can arrange anything.
Oh, no, I can arrange nothing, but
I'd like to be ambassador to Italy. Is that all right?
And Karen, the inquiry is ongoing. Evidence is being referred to ICAC. So how much messier can this get?
Well, it's messy now, very, very messy now politically, and it's going to get a little bit messier, certainly, in terms of the public discussion about this on Friday because John Barilaro will be back before that inquiry on Friday, and there's going to be questions raised that have already been foreshadowed about the former media advisor of his who he is in a relationship with now, and his recommendation of her for a job at Investment New South Wales, and that will be uncomfortable for him, to say the least.
Yeah, that sounds like it'll get a little bit icky. Karen, are you interested in becoming the ambassador to Italy? We haven't had any good expressions of interest
My
yet.
job.
I did learn a little Italian once a long time ago.
Puts you well ahead of the competition. Well ahead.
Speak Italian, Steve?
No, I can't. No. I could learn it, though.
Karen, thanks so much for your time.
Ciao, grazie.
Oh, cop that.
Yep, I'm out of a job, sorry.